Chad, what up, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. You're leaving Vegas, yeah? After a successful weekend, I saw.
Yeah, my students came out there and competed. I actually competed as well. I lost a referee's decision that is what it is. But
Is what
I'm
it
more
is.
for me it was more about just getting out there and be on the mats with my guys at the same time and showing them that it's not just about them going out there and I'm out there with them every step of the way.
It's so much fun, right? Like I love it. Like I love doing it that way too.
Well, it's the first competition that we've been able to do as a team in a year and a half
Mm-hmm.
since this pandemic has hit. So it's always a lot of fun getting out there and competing, and it's cool to be able to get out and do it after we're turning the corner on this crazy time.
Yeah. How let's back up. You and I met each other. Like, so I've seen you and I think we've like known of each other, right? But we met, I don't know, a couple months ago.
Yep.
Mark Della Rosa said, "Hey, I'm gonna go train." Mark and I had training set up, and then he was like, "Yo, he told you he was bringing another lightweight," and then my fat ass walked in the room.
Yeah, he hit me up and he me and Mark have known each other just through social media,
Right.
and we had the opportunity when we were stuck in the house for the UFC or in the hotel, and yeah, he was like, "Hey, I got another little guy." I was like, "Cool," and here comes this Bigfoot looking Elliot Marshall.
Not little, but you train with Josh Barnett, right? So like I'm nothing compared to Josh Barnett.
Yeah, I you know what, for me I love training with all different sizes of guys, and especially when it's a guy like you that knows how to roll. You're a big guy, yes, but you're not like a big guy that's just like massively ego driven where you have to smash every small thing that's underneath you.
Man, I feel like you guys are so much more technical than us as the bigger. So like it's not about, especially, like that it comes with time and age, right? Like just learning when you train. It's almost like a drilling session always for me rather than a training session. Like we're training hard, but for me, I always want to be like, okay, I'm going to play with this. And whether they're a big guy or a small guy or a medium-sized guy, I'm like, okay, let me see what they do and like try to play with their game rather than stop their game.
Yeah, and that comes with time, right? And it also comes with the way your approach is as well, right? Because some people unfortunately never actually get to that stage where they become so analytical in their sessions, where they're like, okay, I'm only working on this. They only know one speed, and that's kill or be killed. And to me, I'm looking at longevity in this stuff, and that's the way I enjoy this, because I want to look at each one or each person that I roll with, each session or even each competition, and dissect it so I can figure out how can I grow from this time on the mat.
And I think what it does too, like when you start teaching and being responsible for the growth of someone else, that really changes the mentality as well, right? Like
Hopefully,
you
hopefully.
know,
And
yeah,
unfortunately, as well as I do that there are a lot of people out there that unfortunately never get into that side of coaching, right?
right.
They've got their own reasons behind it, or for whatever um, uh, whatever their own agendas are. But yeah, no, I think a proper coach, that's what they should be doing, right?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I agree that trying to win coach of the year, which I think is like you can't try to win that thing. If you try to win coach of the year, you're failing your athletes sometimes, in my opinion, because it's about you again.
That's exactly it. I realized that when I decided that I wanted to start coaching, it was no longer about me, because when you are a competitor and when you're a fighter, it's the most selfish thing on the planet, because it has to be about you. Everything is about you. But if you're going to become a coach, and if you want to be a good coach, you have to realize that your time on that realistically is more or less done in that realm. It's going to change. You could still achieve things and you could still aspire to it, but it's no longer about you. It has to be about the people that you're working with and that you want to mentor and take under your lead.
Where did this journey of martial arts begin for you? Like it's been a long journey for you. So what was what got you into it in the first place?
So ironically, when I was a kid, I started with Taekwondo, and that has no relevance to anything. The reason why I say that is because I started when I was like 6 or 7, and I absolutely hated it. It was one of those things where it was like, I was this little kid. My mom and my dad put me in Taekwondo, and I hated it. It was like, this is, I want to play baseball. Like, get me out of this stupid gi or kimono.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think I did it for a year or two, and then I got into wrestling about 2 years after that, and I fell in love with wrestling. Wrestling was my first love when it comes to martial arts, and I do see wrestling as a martial art.
I agree.
And it really started to build my confidence because I was a very small, bullied kid for most of my life, and wrestling gave me that outlet. I wrestled through junior high, high school, and then I wrestled in college. And then I left Sacramento to pursue art and film school. And I was making a lot of bad decisions in college. And I was looking for a wrestling program just to get back in shape. And this is when the colleges had pulled the funding from all the programs, and there was no wrestling programs anywhere. And I was like, man, this is not good. I'm doing all these things that are just gonna really put me in a coffin probably. And a buddy of mine I worked on a film project with said, hey, this is back in 2003, 2004. So we're talking before, it started really taking off.
Right before The Ultimate Fighter.
Yes. Yep. And I remember him saying, hey, it's not wrestling, but I go to this jiu-jitsu school, and it's like wrestling. If you want to come give it a try. I'm like, nah, I've seen that stuff. It looks a little silly. And I'm having flashbacks of being in that kimono when I was a kid. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it. And so then he finally convinced me, and I went and did it. And it happened to be a no-gi night. And the main instructor didn't show up. So it was me, my buddy, and this kid who I'm actually still friends with today, who was another wrestler. And he had nobody to wrestle with because it was all jiu-jitsu guys. And so him and I just wrestled for like 2 hours. And they taught me a guillotine, and I was like, this is the coolest shit ever. I get to actually throw people and choke people. Like, this is super cool. I want to come back. And that's how I started with jiu-jitsu. Then, of course, that led into everything else. But then, one class of jiu-jitsu led to 2 classes. 2 classes led to me kind of doing this for about 3 months. And they told me about an MMA class they had at night. And I was like, well, I mean, I tried the jiu-jitsu stuff. So I tried it. I'm like, oh, my God, the same thing happened again. I'm like, I can choke people, I can punch people, and I can throw people. This is fantastic. Like, how did I not want to do this? And so I trained for about 3 months, and then the craziest question of all popped up from the head instructor, who was like, hey, I know you're not into it for this, but what do you think about doing a fight? And I
after
said, well,
3 months.
After 3 months.
And
I had never even sparred before. Like, I hadn't even sparred yet. And I think I'm training like 2, maybe 3 times a week. Not even serious. I'm still going back to my art studio, smoking cigarettes, doing blow and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? A fight? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I like a real fight? And he said, yeah. And he knew I was a student. He said, well, pay some money. And, I know you're kind of trying to figure out how to do. Yeah. And I said, well, how much does it pay? And he goes, I don't know. I've never done this before. They called me. They said they have a guy that's got a little bit more experience than you. He's got about 6 months more experience. And just throwing it out there. And let's say it's a Wednesday, right? This is where this is hilarious. It's a Wednesday. And I said, well, is it a pro fight? And he goes, yeah, it's a professional fight. I'm like, holy shit, what are you talking about? And he said, well, if you want to do it, there's no pressure. I said, well, when is it? He said, it's Saturday. I'm like, hold on, it's Wednesday. You want me to do a professional fight on Saturday? And he said, well, maybe if you're into it. I said, well, where is it? He said, Tijuana, Mexico.
Oh, God.
And now I'm like, okay, so you want me to travel to TJ on 3
And where are you right now?
Are
you in Southern California?
Go fight a professional. I'm in LA. I'm in LA.
Okay.
And you don't know how much we're going to get paid. I've never sparred. fuck it, I'm in. And so I took this fight in Mexico. We traveled to Mexico. I knew no Spanish at all. And we go out there, and they told me I was going to have a hotel room. Everything was going to be taken care of. The limited Spanish that I did know that I did not have a hotel room. I didn't have any per diem.
God,
so
yeah, fuck yeah. What year is this? 2005, 2006?
This is 2005. So I ended
Okay.
up fighting at Total Combat at a 3-story bar called the Baby Rock in Tijuana. And it reminded me of every single bad movie where like somebody has to go fight in the middle of this bar, but somebody died right before the main person has to go in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
It was that place. And I remember I came out to Rocky. I came out to Rocky theme music. It's the only thing I can think of.
These kids don't understand how lucky they have it now, right? That they get to fight in actual events.
Oh my God.
My first fight was in a fucking it was at this place called the Douglas County Fairgrounds, and you had to walk out in like through the horse stalls, like where there's horse shit and horse manure.
I believe it.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck is this?
I believe it, man. Like those days back then, it was so crazy. I mean, check this out. I wore wrestling shoes so I could let my opponent know that I was a wrestler. I thought that might have some kind of like mental advantage because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. But it turns out,
how'd the fight go?
Well, he was a better wrestler than me.
Oh shit!
So that didn't work in my favor. I got suplexed twice over my head. He was a good wrestler. I remember I threw a push kick after the first round. I didn't know how to kick at all, and he suplexed me over the head. And I remember my corner. He goes, "Do not throw any more kicks." And I was like, "No problem." Third round starts. I come straight out with another push kick. Throws me again, and I pretty much got my ass kicked for 3 rounds. But here's the great part of the story. I learned a guillotine the week before that fight, and I finished that fight in the 3rd round with a mounted guillotine, and I won the fight in Tijuana, Mexico, and then got paid $150 cash for doing it.
So well worth it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was well worth it because let's be honest, if I wouldn't have won that fight, I don't think that I would have continued down this journey. I don't. I think if I would have lost it, I would have been like, maybe this isn't for me. That was the stupidest thing I could have done. I went out here and did that. But it really did spark that fire in me. I was like, holy shit, this is something that I really enjoy. And could you imagine what I could possibly do if I actually trained this? So then
it gave you the power of belief.
100%. And that's something that I needed my whole life. And, I struggled with confidence for most of my life, even in my adult years, from being bullied as a kid to always being told I wasn't good enough. So that was like the first time that I really had that moment of being like, I can do something for myself. And fighting, I realized like I was so afraid to fight. I mean, I was terrified. I was backstage, and I have a very bad memory. I do believe that I can look back and I know I suffer some CTE and some damage from over the years, but there's certain things that do stick out, and that's one of them. I remember being so afraid backstage that I was screaming at the wall to get myself ready to go in there, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but yet I still forced myself to do it. And that's what I realized, that's what it means to overcome fear. It's not about not being afraid. It's not backing down to the fear. And that was just a catalyst for everything that was to come for the next, 17 years.
We have such a similar story, right? Because, once you go down this journey of fighting, once you realize you're doing it, the goal is champion, right? Like the goal is to be the champion, to be the best in the world. No one, and I think that needs to be the goal on everyone's outset. If your goal is not champion, this shit, you won't put the work in to get all of the side benefit that comes later when most likely you don't become the champion.
Right.
Because that's going to be for so few and far between the champion. but goddamn, the gift that fighting gave me, all I can do is try to repay it. Right? Like the
100,
lessons that I
100%.
learned.
Yep. I mean, you're spot on. You know, you. It's funny because you get into this and you want to be the best. You want to be the best because every day you have to wake up, and if you're not trying to be the best, you're going to get hurt in there. Like that's just the truth of it. And the chances of you actually becoming champion now, there are so many other variables. It's like there's a bit of luck. There's the marketing side of it. There's so many other things. And it's funny for me when I realized that my pursuit of being the best in the world no longer meant that I had to go out there and prove it. That's when I knew it was time for me to start looking for other options. Not meaning that I didn't want to be the best in the world, because of course I do. Every time I watch the UFC, every time I watch Bellator or ONE FC, it doesn't matter. I watch these guys and I'm like, I can beat that guy. Like, and I talk to my wife and I'm like, man, like maybe I should put in some phone calls and put in some work. But I realized that what I needed for me is to know that I could be the best. And I know that I can beat these guys because of what I've built in myself and what I've built in my ability to train and what I know that I can achieve. But that only came from the process. That only came from the journey that I've been on all these years. And that's the ups, the downs, and the pursuit of trying to be the best. I know the process now.
That's what you just said, the pursuit, right? Like the pursuit of greatness. And you're going to like, you might fail at this, right? You'll fail.
Oh,
Everyone will fail so many times, but it's the pursuit of greatness is the most empowering thing that anybody can have because it builds all these other things. It builds belief, it builds trust, it builds strength, it builds real courage, because there's just nothing like it, especially in the combat sports, right? Because the combat sports are brutal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, people are so worried about the results. And I'm like, listen, you got to understand something. The results are going to be the results. Mm-hmm. But if you put in the work, if you put in the undeniable work in yourself, whatever the results are, you're going to be content because you know that you can adjust and you can learn from it. Like the results of what I did from earlier in my career, I don't even think about that anymore because those allowed me to get data that I could collect and put that into my pursuit of what comes next.
Yeah, man, it's so hard to say this to the young guys, right? This is all it is knowledge, right? This is all we're trying to do. We prepare, and then the event itself, it just has to be knowledge. You just have to be like, okay, even your wins, even when you win. I work with this guy, his name is Salt, and he always has this idea of neutral thinking. He's like, you have to think neutrally. Everything has benefits and drawbacks. When you get a good result, it's so easy to see the benefits. So look for the drawbacks. Look for where you were unskillful. And when you get the result that you don't want, it's so easy to see the drawbacks. Try to find the skillful, you know? So we're just always just on this pursuit of more skill and more knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. You know, my guys always laugh at it because they always know that right when I step into the ring with them, once they've won, yes, I'm happy for them, but like I'm always so analytical that I'm breaking down the fight with them in the ring. I'm like, hey, look, that was good, but X, Y, Z, we need to remove that because that's when it's fresh. I need to make sure I articulate the data immediately, and then we're going to go back and analyze it.
Yeah. What was it like for you, like, as you were moving through the career, right? Like, so we talked about that first fight. What happened after that? So you got the spark, right? Like you drank the full cup of Kool-Aid, or was it not a cup? Like you still
no,
need
it
more?
was. I was still sipping on it. Like,
okay.
I was sipping on the Kool-Aid. I was sipping on some whatever else that was can get me fucked up on the weekends. I was sipping on it. So there was a stage where I was, you know, I'd done a bunch of fights. I was pretty much the main guy in Southern California, or in LA anyways, that was headlining the first shows. I was on the very first sanctioned California event because it was still illegal here when I started. Right. And then we started selling out the Santa Monica Civic Center, and I was riding this kind of high of being the guy, but I wasn't putting in the work to be the guy, and I knew that. And you know, it showed. You know, I had a couple opportunities. I got signed to a big promotion back then, which was you'll remember this, called Bodog Fight.
Yeah,
And
Bodog.
so Bodog, man, that was an amazing show, because that was my first taste of what it felt like for somebody to be really taken care of at an event. And so that was cool. I got to travel to Vancouver. I was fighting in Vegas, but my career wasn't a career yet. This was me being a guy that just kind of good timing, and I was fighting all over the place. And my record was 5-4. You know, nothing special. I had fought some good guys. I'd fought some not so good guys, and there wasn't the research accessible like we have now on your phone. And so it was like, you want to go fight this guy? Cool, go do it. My weight class didn't exist. 135, 145, like 155, just take whatever I could.
Mm-hmm.
And there came to a point where I was, like I said, I was 5-4. And this is where I decided, okay, it's time to drink Kool-Aid. I was falling out of love. I was a professional artist, so I had an art studio. I was coming out of art school, and I wasn't into it anymore, and I was really falling in love with this fighting thing. And I said, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I need to make a big decision. I'm either going to keep pursuing art, or I'm going to pursue this fighting thing that I have no idea how I'm going to make it work, but for some reason, I feel some kind of way about it. And I made the decision, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I gave up my art studio. I moved into my car, and I decided to say, I'm in. I'm all in. I'm going to dedicate everything to this. And if it doesn't work, I can always go back to art. 1 fight, 2 fight, 3 fight. Ended up going on a 6-fight win streak. I started really just getting obsessed with this, and then I got signed to the WEC. I became one of the first bantamweights in the it's considered the big show then. Then the WEC became the UFC, and that's when everything just started clicking to me, and the passion of the process became what I started obsessing on. And when I devoted myself to this journey, the process became everything. From the moment I woke up to the moment I go to bed, and it's still with me today. I have my journals that I write in all the time, even my old ones, and I review the way I used to write then compared to how I am now, and I just analyze everything, and I know it gets annoying sometimes to the people around me, but this is what I've had to do to figure out who I am, and now I understand my process.
God, that was amazing, right? Just the end. But everyone's story is like, and how they got to this is always cool to hear. But just the process, because life is just a process. There's no figured it out. Like, I know that this thing that I do and this thing that you do works for you, when it works for me, and you share it with the world, right? You share it. Like, I don't know that I'm right. Do you know that you're right?
Hell no, I just talked about it the other day. I was like, I make a lot of mistakes, but my glory is that I'm willing to take the chances to make those mistakes.
The mistakes don't fuck with who you are as a human.
No,
right?
I mean, they fuck with you. Don't get me wrong. Like, you make a big mistake, that fucks with you. But you have a choice, right? You have a choice on how it messes with you. Do you let it break you down, or do you let it be a reason that you learn from it and you grow? And that becomes a complete choice. Now, if you ever hear me coaching my athletes, there's one thing that you will always hear me say in the corner when I'm yelling out, hey, it's time to make a choice. Because it is. You can either sit there and wait, or you decide what happens. And at the end of the day, it's a choice. Everything's a choice.
Man, I'm resonating with that so much, just because 2 weeks ago was the no-gi pants, and I had young female athlete, and when she's great, she's been great lately. Like, she's been smoking people, but she does this thing where, like, if she meets a little resistance back, she can wilt a little sometimes too. And the girl she was going up with in the finals was not a wilter. She ate every submission and everything that these other girls threw at her, and then came back to win and finish all of her matches. I was like, wow. Damn, I was like, all right, Anna, this finals, at some point, you're going to have to make a choice. Like, you're going to have to make a choice. And I don't know what that end result will be. You might end up finishing her or killing her by a bunch of points. I don't know. But there's going to come a point in this match when you're going to have to make a choice to win?
Yep, that's it. That's 100%. This is going to be a little bit extreme direction, but this is funny. When we hear people all the time say, I'm willing to die in there, right? And it's like,
You're
okay, no, you're not, right? Like you could say that right now from the outside, right? But the reality is when you're in there and that injury happens that you've never experienced before, the time you break your orbital, you break your hand, you break your jaw, it's in that moment that you have to make the decision, because there's no way that you can make some kind of overblown assumption that you're willing to decide on that prior to that ever happening. It's impossible. I always go back to Robbie Lawler when he fought Rory McDonald, because those two warriors, I have to use that, in that moment, their faces were falling off in that fight. And instead of going into the corners in the last round, they stood in the middle of the ring to let the other person know, I'm not going anywhere. And that was a decision on both of them that they needed to make for themselves, because there is no training, there's no book, there's no mentor, nothing that you can try to prepare for that's going to give you the strength or courage to stand in that moment other than the moment.
And look,
for
they've
the
not
guys
been
to
the
say,
same
I'm willing to
since.
die in there tomorrow. No, you're not. Like,
yeah,
I know, absolutely.
they've not been the same
right?
since.
But
neither one of them.
Nope. And but my reason for bringing that up is, yes, they both were changed because of that, but they also were forced to dig the depths that they didn't even know they had, and that's where that moment came from. And yes, they both changed from that, but that's because once you go that deep, it's impossible for you not to change.
And it's scary as fuck.
Terrifying.
Right? It's scary as fuck.
Can you imagine going into that, like, on the surface level? Because obviously, we're talking about the choices. You have one of the world's toughest athletes and fighters standing in front of you with his face hanging off, looking at you saying, I'm here for another 5 minutes. That is terrifying. You have to be willing to dig down deep and go, so am I. But it's only in that moment that you can either say, okay, I'm willing to sit here and fight the monster, because that's really what it is, right? Like when we're kids, we're afraid of the monster in the closet, but we want to hide under the bed because we don't want to face it. But you know what? Sometimes just face it. If it's going to kill you, let it be to your face, not your back.
That was gold, bro. Holy shit. Let it be to your face and not your back. Fuck yeah. This is what, man, I love talking to people because you get these little things. I'm going to go steal that. I'm using that shit tomorrow. I'm using it today when I let it be to your face and not your back.
Right? Because it's true, right? Like, because listen, if you're going to kill me, at least let me see it happen. Like, if this is my last moment of glory, I'm going to stand here and make sure that at least I get to watch it happen.
How you're so spot on, like, you know what I mean? And you and I, we might use different words sometimes, right? But I so agree with everything you're saying. Most people don't land here. Most fighters don't land here, right? Like most fighters, and I know I didn't land here initially when I stopped, right? When I stopped, I was filled with this, okay, I'm not the best, still scream that I am, and this bravado, this Howard Elliott that I call him, that I was hiding down, and the way I would not let everyone see him was to scream that he didn't exist.
Yeah. Yep.
The same for you, different for you? What was it?
Say that last part again.
Like this, the same for you or different for you, right? Like when it ended for you, when your career ended for you.
The hardest part for me is that it's the competition, right? Like it's the pursuit of constantly testing myself. And that's what I want. So now I realize that my test now is to be able to draw that out of others. I realize that my test is for me, to instill the power in other people earlier than when I was able to find it for myself. because that's what it is. I'm approaching 40 years old now, and I wish I had this head on my shoulder when I started my career. I wish I had this understanding of the pursuit earlier in my timeline. And now I have an opportunity to relive that through each one of my athletes. And to be honest, I say with my athletes, but let me go a step further. I'm going to say with every single person I have a chance to interact with. That's really what it is. If I can help each person that I come in contact with just see something better about themselves or the day, then I'm doing my job, because I was the scared kid. I was the kid that didn't think much of himself. I was the kid that always gave other people credit. And now I realize that I needed that so I can become what I am today. And it's because of that that I know that I can connect with every single person and what they're going through. We have different struggles, yes, but what connects us is that we both have struggles, and we can get through that as long as we have that power of belief in ourselves and the people around us.
This is what connects everyone in the whole world, in my opinion. And where the problem is that so many people are screaming the opposite. They're trying to talk about how different we are. And the truth is that we're the fucking same. All of us. We're the same, because we all have this struggle. And if we can realize that everyone has a struggle, then we can just help each other with the struggle. Rather than be like, mine's worse than yours or yours is worse than mine. And now look, there's going to be times when, yeah, for sure, somebody's is going to be worse, and we got to help them, like without a doubt, right? And mine's not that bad right now, let's say, but fuck, we all know what the struggle's like.
Oh, for sure, and that's absolutely like where we can 100% connect, right? Like, and that's the problem with social media now, right? Everybody posts their cars, they post these things of this life that's not even genuine, and we lose track of what that word even means, being genuine, right? Like I know I did. I used to want all the flash and all these things, and I realized like that shit doesn't even matter. Like, what matters to me now is the experiences that I can have with the people around me and that I can share with others. That's what matters to me now. Now, that might not be what other people want. Maybe you're into the flash. Well, that's cool. That's your thing. But that's not what I vibe with anymore. And for me, I realize that the more I vibe with connection, I get almost more powerful, and that's the way I feel, because I feel it from other people, and it's a frequency that just keeps getting louder.
You can't explain it. Like, I don't know how to put words to it. And look, I'm not going to say like I like a nice car. I like to drive a nice car, but God forbid I'm going to take a picture of it.
Right. Yeah.
I do take a picture of it. Whenever we buy new cars, in my whole family, ever since I was a little kid, my mom always wanted a picture in front of the car. Right. So I take a picture from my mom and I send it to my mom, and then I hit delete. Like, it doesn't go on my social media.
Yeah, no,
right.
When I bought a recent car, I didn't do that either. I mean,
right.
For me, yes, I do like to have, a little bit of nice things. And my wife always gives me shit because when we travel, I'm a little bougie at times, and I like to stay in nice places.
I'm bougie as fuck. Oh yeah.
But listen, at the end of the day, I've worked my ass off so I can actually do those things for us. And if it's something that's going to give us like a peace of mind, then I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to sit here and make that be about what my life is.
You're not showing it to other people. That's the thing, right? Good for all of us.
Yeah, I want everybody to be able to eat well. I want everybody to be able to be comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to want that for you.
I can't do it for you.
No, I can help you use the things that I've learned, but you have to be able to implement it into your life. And if the data works for you, cool. Let it be for me. Let it be from you. Let it be for somebody else. But take that information and apply it to you. One of the things that I realized, and this is probably one of the most impactful things that's helped influence me, is that I look at athletes and I look at business and I look at all these people and I look at the commonalities that all the elites have. And you start picking those pieces. You're like, holy shit, they all think the same. They all have the same patterns. They all have the same reasons for doing things. And I'm like, I have that too. Oh my God. So yeah, I'm on the right track. And then you start following that and you're like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
The number one thing they have, what you said, is one, they have belief, and two, they have a process. They have a
That's
process
it.
of how they do their day. They don't let their day happen to them, right?
No.
It's not like, oh, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. They happen to the day, you know, and that's such an important piece of this whole success thing, in my opinion, is my day will never happen to me.
You know, and you know, you and I talked a little bit about this. I think it's kind of a cool time to bring it up. You know, the process. We are coming out of this pandemic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
every single one of us that are gym owners and business owners, we have had to try to do this for the last year and a half without a process. We've had no books, no mentors, nobody to ask what to do. We have literally had to develop this day by day and create a process, no matter how long you've been in business, just to survive this thing. And that is trialing on everybody. You know, we discussed this when we were in the
In
hotel. We're
Vegas,
like,
yeah.
you know, how much business have you lost? Oh, I'm losing this. But, you know, trying to stay motivated through that, man, that is tough. But you have to believe in your process, and that's what's going to get you through that, because it is very easy to get sucked into the depression and just say, fuck it, I quit.
It's so hard. It's such a slip. Like once you slip, man, it's so hard to get back. You know, it's so hard to get back because, and I don't even want to act like I don't understand, because it's tough, right? It's tough. It's super tough. How did you stay out of it?
You know, it's tough. Like, I've made these jokes to my wife, and I say they're jokes, but I'd like to think that I'm going to steal a line that I really love from David Goggins, is that I'd like to think that I've developed a callous mind where
Yeah.
things do not affect me the way they should have before, because I've built these calluses over all the things. But I'll be honest, man, there's been plenty of times where I told my wife that, you know what, maybe it'll just be easier for us to shut down. And I realize that if I'm at the stage and I'm having these thoughts, I cannot do that, because the people that have not developed that thick of skin yet, they're going to see that and be like, well, if he's not able to do it, I'm fucked.
Right.
And I had to develop the strength because I knew the people were looking at me for the strength. And that is what allowed me to keep firing and keep going and not giving into the bullshit, because I realize it's bigger than me. It's bigger than just what I'm doing. It really does impact everybody around me.
It's so interesting what you said there. Was great, because like you went back into like the fear, because people talk about like not being afraid when you want to fight and all that stuff. Of course we thought about quitting over this last year. Of course. There's no way you couldn't. It's like, but it doesn't matter. And so many people get wrapped up in their thoughts of like, oh my God, I thought about quitting. And then that makes them quit because they had the
Yeah.
thought. Yo, man, you had the thought. Good. So what? You know how many thoughts you have during a day? You know how many
Yeah.
dumb thoughts you have during a day? Don't listen
Yeah. I
to
mean,
it.
you know, I'll tell
Don't
you
listen
this,
to it.
you know, watching the student numbers drop,
Mm,
watching the bank account numbers drop, watching the uncertainties drop. Like, every day, it's like trying to find a nugget to keep me motivated was next to impossible. And I had to realize that, okay, I can either choose to give in, or I can choose to know that tomorrow's another day, that it's a chance for me to find something, an angle on this monster. And then I started finding small nuggets. And it was like, oh my God, okay, today it was a better day than yesterday. And then it started making the domino effect. And I'll tell you this right now, I'm sure, without even hearing your side of it, my business today is so much stronger structurally than it was pre-pandemic, because I have been forced to close the holes and not just patch it up. I mean, I've ripped off the panels and I've restructured and reframed everything. And now I'm looking at a business, I'm like, holy shit, thank you, pandemic.
I'm the same. I'm the exact same. And like we were solid before pandemic. No, I was very solid before. You know, we had 7 schools. We did 6 million. We do 6 million in revenue,
Wow.
and it's better now. It's going to be better. Like, I don't know if this year's revenue will be better, but the business is stronger. The team is stronger. Every single thing about the schools is more skillful than it was before the pandemic.
Yep, absolutely. And it's because people like what we have done is fight through the unknown. And once you fight through the unknown, everything is beautiful on the outside. Everything is. Because that's where people are afraid of. They're afraid of facing the unknown because you don't know what's going to happen. So why fear something that hasn't happened yet? Just fucking fight it. Stand there and fight and see what happens.
Michael Jordan said it in The Last Dance. Are you a Michael Jordan fan?
I watched The Last Dance.
Yeah, so, right, it was the last episode when they were taking that shot from the half-court line, you know, and they were betting on it. And they all missed it, and Michael hit it. And somebody looked at him, and they were like, what the hell, dude? And he looked at him and he goes, why would I even think about missing a shot that I haven't taken yet? Like, what? Why? Who cares? Just shoot it. You know, just shoot it.
Yep. That's it. That's it. You know, it's funny, that Last Dance, that was such a good documentary, but not just because. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You got me? Okay. Yeah. I was saying that on the last bit. The Last Dance was such a good movie because one of my favorite books is Relentless by Tim Grover, which was the actual storyline behind that whole thing. And so when I watched the movie, I was like, oh shit, this is the other side of the book.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I'm going to read Relentless. I was a huge Jordan fan.
Mind blowing. Yo, Relentless is you're gonna love it, dude. By Tim Grover.
I'll get it right now.
Like, it's one of those books that it's on loop on my audiobook, and you know, the highlights, mind blowing.
It's just The Last Dance. What The Last Dance did for me is it showed the mentality of the best. Right? Like he's the GOAT. Michael Jordan is the GOAT of all GOATs. Like, there's nobody more GOAT than
Relentless is the guy that got them there mentally.
Oh yeah, because Phil Jackson talks about him in Phil's book, The 11 Rings.
Okay. Yes. Tim Grover. He's in The Last Dance. He talks about it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, every athlete, hate Michael, love Michael, doesn't matter. You have to watch that. Like, you have to go watch The Last Dance. I don't care if you don't 100%. Like ball. I don't care if you like ball sports or don't like ball sports.
No, I mean, his relentless approach to the game really was unparalleled. You know, the fact that he said, listen, if my team wasn't gonna show up today, fuck it, I had to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's like,
it doesn't matter.
They're not performing, I have to go score 60 today. You know,
yeah,
and that was matter. The truth. You know, any excuse will do. Was it my team? Was it the coaching? Was it food poisoning? It doesn't matter. Whatever excuse you have is going to be the excuse that doesn't allow you to get it done.
Yeah. Fuck. Bro, tell everyone where they can reach you. This was amazing. Tell everyone where, because, like, man, everyone needs a little more Chad George in their life. So, you know,
well,
tell everyone where they can find it.
You can find me on Instagram. You know, I've got my my social media, Chad Savage George. I also have my podcast, The Savage Hour, which is on every streaming platform and on YouTube. And then we've got my documentary, Occupation Fighter, that is still on Amazon Prime, I believe, and iTunes. And then we have the second part of my documentary that I can't say where it's coming out yet, but I will say that it's called Life of a Fighter. It's coming out July 11th. I can't go too much into it yet because of all the stuff, but July 11th, Life of a Fighter gets released, and I'm so stoked on it because it is the culmination of my career and everything that I've done, and it's an amazing film.
Hell yeah. Man, I like to end the show with 2 questions. I don't have Joe Rogan's platform. I don't have Tim Ferriss's platform. I don't have Jocko's platform, right? Like, so really this is just like you taking an hour out of your day to, like, you know, come on some dude's platform that won't really do much for you maybe. Why say yes to, you know, doing it? And not to toot my own horn, right? But like why say yes?
I think the reason why to say yes is because of the connection that not only we had when we met in Vegas, but the opportunity to uplift and change one person that may be on this show that needs it. That's really what it is. If it's one person that connects, hell, maybe if it's just you, maybe if it's me, that's all that it needs for me to say yes.
We are so on the same fucking wavelength. Like the frequency is stupid, because that's I mean, when people ask me like why did like I wrote a book and it cost me money, right? And they were like, why'd you do that? And I was like, because one person might read it and they might have a better life.
That's it.
You know,
that's it. That's it.
Last question. I believe everyone has a power. Every single person in this world has a superpower. It doesn't make them necessarily money. It doesn't make them famous, but it makes them go out in the world and do amazing. What's your superpower? Oh, right at the end. Hello? Chad.
Yeah, can you hear
Yeah, you just came back.
Oh my God. Okay. This is going to sound very simple, but my superpower really is simple, is that to convince people that if I can do it, so can you. We are all connected. We are all the same. Nobody is importantly special over the next person. And if I can do it, so can you, and we can do this shit together.
Bye. I don't know what to. Yeah, fuck. You just did my outro. You just did. Look, every podcast ends. I'm gonna do it. Ready, guys? Go out there. Don't try to be Chad George, and don't try to be Elliot Marshall. You're not special, but we all have a unique thing. Go out there and find your power.